G'day, Beast Smashers. It is Penta El Coach here, and I'm here with El Bear, and we are talking all things Sons of Behemat. We have a new battle tome here. It's just dropped recently, and I want to get a discussion talking about how the Sons book has changed. If people have no idea why we're dressed up in wrestling masks, it is because of the world's greatest monstrous reaction. I call it WrestleMania. You call it your favorite wrestler move. It could be, I don't know. What do you think? I'm thinking
I'm
like
definitely a
suplex.
suplex. Yeah, it's a suplex. I'm a big Dwayne the Rock Johnson fan, giving the people's elbow, giving the people's brow. But this is a suplex. You know, it's gonna pick up a good Archeon and just backslam him right on his dome.
Yeah, I imagine. I mean, I'm a massive wrestling fan, right? And I just think about like Brock Lesnar. When I think about a mega-gargant picking up Archeon, Nagash, a Terrorgeist, any type of big beast or maw crusher, I'm thinking of that German suplex. I'm thinking about maybe hitting an F5, and maybe that's why there is a -1 to hit penalty against us when we do the Colossal Slam. But we are talking, yes, I'll get to the chat in a minute. It's very hard to be using your mouse, keyboard, and wrestler's mask. But we're going to talk Sons. It's a brand new book. It recently dropped. We've had Sons, the original book, now since the back end of second edition. So we've kind of had this very limited battle tome in the past where we've had, 4 War Scrolls plus some mercenaries, which were really the same thing. But we've got 2 new units. We've had a improvement to a unit. We've had a brand new modification to the mob. We've had some minor tweaks here and there, both in the attack profile. We've had some new abilities. And I wanted to have a discussion with El Bear, the #1 ITC ranked Sons player, to start thinking about, how do I think about this new army? How do I think about what's changed? What's had a glow up? What is new? What is different? What maybe should be shelved? And how do we start thinking about making the most of Sons? But for anyone who doesn't know El Bear from Rerolling Ones, g'day, welcome back.
Hey, Coach, what's going on, y'all? I appreciate you having me back. Absolute blast to be here. And now that we're talking WrestleMania, I'm really thinking if anyone out there is a sculptor and can put an afro on maybe my next Beast Smasher, I'm looking for like an Andre the Giant kind of feel, maybe to add to my army.
I love wrestling so much. I'm even thinking about kit bashing, like going back to square one and making like a Randy Savage, a Hulk Hogan, maybe a Ric Flair or a Bret Hart. Some classic. I obviously get The Rock in there, maybe a Stone Cold Steve Austin. I reckon there's so much wrestler inspired. I can see myself falling into this trap very easily in 2023, which could be a blessing or a curse. But I love it. I've already got people in the chat talking about, potentially doing it to Dread Saurian. You could be, Jack's already suplex Kragnos, which is incredible. Without going into too much into the wrestling show, what's your thoughts, man? We got the new book. You've had it for sorry, I was just reading the chat for a second. What's your thoughts on the new book so far? Like, we've had it for about a week and a half.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. So we're talking about our, obviously everyone's kind of nerding out about the WrestleMania suplex. When we got the book at Rerolling Ones, I called up Jack, and Jack's a huge wrestling fan too. So we're just chatting it up. We're talking about it, and I'm reading some of the stuff, and he's like, Bear, you can suplex guys now. You can suplex Kragnos, and we started digging into it, and I've been very, very excited with all of Games Workshop's battle tomes that they put out, that they're thematic. They are really just thinking like, what should this army be? How do ghosts play like ghosts? And how do giants play like giants? And it's great. Each mega has got that little something, even if it's just a points change, but most of them got something really unique, which is really cool. The 2 new megas, really cool models, and they got their own unique little spins on them. And I was just really excited. I've been chatting with a lot of other Gargant fans about like their favorite parts. Try this, try that. And it's amazing with, 5 megas, one being a priest and these artifacts and getting a wizard in there, getting endless spells in there. The combos and the math just in points, you're not even just math hammering yet, is so neat. And everyone's talking about like, what do I want to combo? What do I want to get in there? How many babies do I want? So I'm loving it. Absolutely love this book.
Yeah, it's interesting because I remember when the Sons, the original book, very first dropped, and I was talking to a good mate of mine, a very well-known competitive player in Australia, Clarky. Michael, you know who you are. And I remember Clarky was talking to me because I think I was coming off I was still building my megas, and he was kind of trialing them very quickly. And he said to me, he goes, what I want to do with my sons is I want to smash, but the best thing I can do is retreat from combat and just hide on objectives. And I found that was to be very true, right? With Mightier Makes Rightier being the number one allegiance. And I always felt that as a Suns player, I wanted to be more of an Iron Jaws player as opposed to a retreat, hold the objective, and just try to clutch on Mightier Makes Rightier as long as possible. And that kind of went you down the route of, healing and wards, and just like how long can I survive on an objective before a mega falls over. You kind of come to this part where you've had like Kronspine, you've had the Kragnos as well to get like that alpha aggressive Gargant army, and it's always been like this one-dimensional type of book. It's like, War Stompers didn't really see a lot of play for a long time. You went all in on one particular build, and one of the things that I've noticed when I've picked up this book, and I've seen people discussing this already, is people are upset that the army that they ran in the past no longer fits into the play style of today. And that's true of Nurgle. People were upset when the Nurgle speed would disappeared, and it's like, this is not my army. My army's not working like how it should be. What I've really found is I really enjoy the book. It's different. It's lost some damage, but it's got some new abilities. And I think it's that type of synergistic opportunity that allows me to explore other parts of the book and compete in different ways. I don't know if you found you agree with that, or if you have found anything into that, but I've just found more interplay outside of just movement damage, stand on objective.
Yeah, absolutely. I was more of the smashing type of Gargant player. I played Kragnos. I played a Trip Gatebreaker and two babies with the Horror Gas here recently. Did really well at a grand tournament running something like that. And I was the type, just get in there, get past your screens, get into the meat and start smashing. Like I want to get in there and tear things up. But I'm still excited. My list is now without the Horror Gas, it's 140 points away from 2,000. So obviously that's not something I'm going to run anymore. It's changed. It's different. I'm going to change it up a little bit. But I've also played those unfortunate games too. Shout out to Ricky Fisher, really great guy here, amazing painter. He played a Kragnos Trogs Gitz army, and I made him castle up in the corner for turn 1 and 2. And then at that point, I looked at it and I said, Ricky, I can just run away and I win this game, but I don't want to. Like, I want to roll dice. I want to play this game. But I can't just get in there and throw my models away. And so it's exciting. It's engaging. It gives more stuff and less of a joke of, I don't have a hero phase. Let's move on to fighting. Let's move on to retreating. Let's do this. It's very impactful. There's a lot of things that we can combine and try and experiment. There's been a lot of us in some of the Discords experimenting on TTS. Like, what if I combine this and this? And it's great. I love it. And my gameplay has changed, but my love for taking these to a tournament has not.
I think as well, like, we've got 2 new models. We've got King Broad, and we'll talk about all this stuff. I'll bring up the War Scrolls, and we'll talk a bit about like what we like and what we're thinking. And we've also built a couple of lists for each of the tribes, so we can talk a bit about where our thoughts are. But Jonathan in the chat's made a good comment as well. The Stomper Tribe is the one that I've always hated, because even in 2nd edition, it felt restrictive. In 3rd edition, when we got things like Rally and we got all these other cool commands, you couldn't use them. You just couldn't use them. And it felt so weird that the benefits that I got from the old Stomper Tribe never outweighed giving up what I got by going into another tribe. So to Jonathan's point, I think Stomper Tribe is really worth considering. And it's one that I'm looking at exploring outside of my traditional Breaker Tribe.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to get into it here soon. And talk about the tribes, talk about their artifacts and stuff, but they really got some cool things, some cool math behind it. cool analytics behind them. So they're an exciting tribe.
Yeah. I'm gonna see how long I can hold this mask on for. I had a plan of like taking it off, but I'm like, I'm gonna stick with this. I'm gonna get the full experience. Can I stream 2 hours in a wrestling mask? So
For the record, Coach messaged me and was like, "Hey, how do you feel about like a Mexican Libre mask? Like, let's both wear a wrestling mask." And there, I think there's a little apprehension, but me, I'm just a weirdo. I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'm there, wrestling mask. We're gonna look like idiots. Can't wait.
I had to. I was gonna put like I've got a couple of. I was trying to look for like Randy Savage glasses. Like I was gonna go full wrestler. I'm like I'll get my lucha mask out. I got this from CMML when I was down in Mexico watching some awesome wrestling. But we'll get to the wrestling in a second. So first off, let's go high level. Mightier makes Righty. It has made a minor change. So your man crushers are still the same. They count as 10 models on an objective. So if you've got a man crusher mob, they'll count as 30. And we still have a tribe that can modify that number. So if you played the Taker tribe, no changes there. But what we have seen a change, and we'll talk a bit about in a minute, is that the mega-gargant Mightier makes Rightier value has changed. So instead of it being a flat number for the duration of the hero, as it takes damage, that number will reduce. Now, what's your thoughts? Have you found an impact? What's your thoughts on the change?
So this one goes straight to you, because I remember we talked about this last time, and this was your wants and desires, so they heard you. But and it's great because it's fair. Mightier makes Rightier. It now does bracket, but it doesn't horribly bracket. I think it bottoms out at 12, I think.
Yeah.
So, and it's just like Kragnos. Kragnos bottomed out, I think, 15, 18, something around there. He doesn't bottom extremely low, but it does bottom out, and it bottoms out at I'm almost bleeding to death kind of point in the bracket, and it steps down fairly. So I was absolutely in favor of this. It made sense. And I don't know how many times I've played people where they say, they're just wailing into this guy. He's got 5 wounds left and they've got nothing else to throw at him in their turn. I was like, how many models do you count as right now? And playing Taker Tribe for a bit. I was like, 30. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, great. Thanks. So yeah, no, that's great. It was a great idea. You asked for it, the community asked for it, and it's fair.
Yeah, don't blame me on this change, but it was one that needed to happen. And the minute Kragnos came in with a degrading profile, I knew that our time was coming. Whenever the new book came, that degrading profile was going to be introduced. And it had to happen. Like when you're right, like I think it's 2018, 15, 12. 12 is still pretty fair. Outside of a world of expert conquerors, 12 is still pretty, that's 2 monsters and a couple of heroes or some troops that need to be on the objective to outscore a mega-gargant on its lowest bracket. As well as that, like Expert Conquerors is not going to be around forever. So should Expert Conquerors drop off in the upcoming GBH, which at the time of recording could be in 2 to 3 months' time, it's pretty hard to handle.
Yeah, and even when you compare it to other people with Might Makes Right for ogres, they're two guys per infantry, and so this is fair. This absolutely makes sense.
What makes me excited about this change is that I don't rock up to the table and my opponent rolls their eyes at me. That's the key, right? Like you go to a tournament or you go to somebody doesn't want to play megas because of that MPE experience. No different to like the old Sentinels. So for me, good change. It's made us a little bit weaker. Let's not sugarcoat it, but I think overall it's a good change and it's not bad. It's not like, again, 12 is nothing. We got 4 tribes. So we've got a new tribe. We've got the 3 tribes we had already. We had Taker, we had Smasher, we have Breaker, and we have a new one called Smasher, the Smasher tribe. Yeah, Smasher.
Yep, Smasher tribe.
Whew. B Smasher. What are your thoughts? Do you think and we'll get to we'll actually get to the rules and all the things as we go through the stream, but just high level, what are your thoughts on the 4 tribes?
4 tribes are great. They each have their own unique, cool nuance. They took something from that was inherent to the war scroll that made them unique, put it into the tribe. so you can then give it to the babies, which is really cool. I will say, if we're talking about wants, hopes, dreams, I think one more tribe for broad would be super cool. Granted, you have to take a named character as a general. You're going to lose a command trait, and you pay that tax to have a broad tribe. That would really just the cherry on top of this book for me. Would be super cool if that came out, next time they do a pass at these guys.
It's a missed opportunity, because I was talking to Jonathan, who was in the chat. We're having like a hobby hangout the other day, and I said to him, what if I want to run King Broad with all the man crushers?
Yeah.
So one of the things, folk, if you're new to this book, your sub-allegiance, your tribe, is determined by your general. So if your general is a gatebreaker, it must be the breaker tribe. Or if you want to be the breaker tribe, you must appoint a gatebreaker as your general. And the same is true with Taker into Kraken, Smasher into Beast Smasher, and Stomper into War Stomper. But what if I wanted to have all the man crushers with King Broad, being that he is the king? Unfortunately, you can't do that. So that, for me, is something that I would like to see moving forward. Maybe a White Dwarf update. I feel like it's a missed opportunity. But for me, when I looked at the 4 tribes, I think all 4 of them are viable. I don't think any of them are bad. I think personally, like the Taker tribe for me is the one that I probably would least use, maybe. Taker or Beast. But all 4 of them are usable depending on how the meta and the types of opponents and the types of GBH.
And you said the key word there too is meta. You say we get a new battle scroll, or we get, the new GHB, and suddenly we're playing Monster Hammer all over again. Oh man. Beast Smasher and his little babies coming in to, swing their clubs and really gamble on that beast strike. Absolutely. Let me at them. So this stuff really has play, and it has play in the future as the game keeps continuing to change.
Yeah, if we ever go into this infantry style horde meta, Stomper Tribe, stonks are up. If we ever go into that monster tribe, that monster kind of meta, boom, Smasher Tribe stonks are up. If we go into Hero Hammer, like there's just so much utility, and it allows you to flex depending on where the game goes, which I absolutely love. The last part that I want to talk about from a Legion's point of view before enhancements is the thing that we're most excited about, and while we're wearing masks, is we have the 3 monstrous rampages. So your mega-gargants have access to 3 new monstrous rampages. You've got Beast Grapple, Earth-Shattering Roar, and Colossal Slam. So high-level thoughts. Do you like all 3? What are you thinking with this?
These are all great. You can't complain about any of these. They're so thematic, so good. And it's not game-breaking, but it's game-enhancing. These things are fun. You want to go through them and talk about how cool they are?
Yeah, let's go into it. So first you got Beast Grapple, which is you pick an enemy monster within 3, roll a dice on a 3-up. You both strike last.
Yeah, this is great. It puts you in the strike last category. So it's a little dangerous if it's not your turn that you're beast grappling this, but it depends on what kind of support you've got. So it's a strike last, which had some NPE before. We did this strike first, strike last war, in previous editions and stuff. But this is strike last with a penalty. You strike last too. So it's great. It's fair. It's on a 3-up. So I love it. It gives such a utility to an army that I was struggling to find enough rampages. These are great.
Yeah, and that's like when I ran my 4 mega gargants, let's say 2 gatebreakers, 2 war stompers for that 2k. There was plenty of times where I'd do Titanic Jewel potentially and a stomp or a roar, but there was often that one that I'm like, I don't want to smash to rubble. What else can I do? Yeah. Or sometimes I'm not hitting a bunch of monsters, so Titanic Jewel was off the table, or I couldn't stomp on it, whatever, right? Beast Grapple is going to be great, especially if I think about something like maybe like a War Stomper, where I could charge them into a really big threat, but I don't want to fight them first. Maybe my Mega Gargant is about to die, so I want to strike before it dies. I can I can charge another mega in or be in combat, beast grapple there, still fight with my really good mega, and then handle that combat later on.
I just realized that a terrible mistake of this mask is not having a drink with a straw in front of me.
Take it off if you need to. I think I'm losing my voice already. I think it's the mask. Earth-shaking roar you've got, which is pick an enemy unit with a wounds characteristic of 1 or 2, and that's within 3 inches, and roll 2d6. If the roll is higher than the bravery, basically for every point, 1 model is going to flee, and the commanding player gets to choose what models flee.
This is just, it's so unique. It's like the Ravenek's Jaws of bravery. I played a game against Matt Beasley the other day, absolute gentleman. We were trying out these rules, and he had some hobgrots surrounding me, trying to screen me out. Bravery 4. I was like, which I actually rolled a 2 and a 3 on this, trying it earlier in the game. But then you come up with a nice 10, and just 6 little hobgrots scatter away and get out of your way. This is great. This is great to just get some stuff out of your way to get into the meat of an army, or get some of these expert conquerors off your point as they're trying to pile on. Yeah, really, really great addition.
Yeah, there's a lot of utility with this, whether it's getting more of your attacks into the better targets, clearing off extra damage. It's going to help you, especially later in the game as you're taking wounds and less attacks are coming through. There's some good utility there. The last one,
we'll talk about it. Sorry about that. We'll talk about it later with terror. But this also forces a bravery roll too. All right, there's a lot of talk about if they run away, does that count in the battle shock phase? And hopefully the FAQ will clear that up, because this is kind of new territory. But as of right now, the way we're looking at it, you get to send a chunk of models away and force a bravery check later on. So it's just, we might not be swinging as many attacks, but we've got ways to just dish out stuff and force those bravery checks later on. And you can spread that damage all around you. It's such a big model.
Yeah, and that's a big call out, right? Is that we lost a little bit of damage on the profile, and you'll see like Death Grip went from Ren 3 to Ren 2. You notice like the Flail has gone from like 10 attacks down to 6 attacks. There's a lot of different changes that have happened, but you notice things like Terror, some of the additional monstrous rampages, even the upgrade to the monster, the Man Crusher mob with its new stomp ability. You're doing more damage through different areas as opposed to a concentrated spike. By the way, thank you, Crane Duelist. Appreciate the super chat. I imagine that's a sympathy donation for the Lucha mask. Speaking of Lucha and taking people to Suplex City, you have the Colossal Slam. Pick one enemy monster that's not a part of a unit of 2 or more models. So, things like, what's a monster? I was going to think like Alapexes, but Alapexes lost the monster keyword. Stormdrake Guard, perfect example, right?
Yeah.
So if you're in a unit of Stormdrake Guard, you can't take them to Suplex City. But if you're up against any other type of hero monster, or even just a generic monster that's not a hero, you can, and if you're obviously within half an inch of it, you get to roll a dice. And on a 3-up, you can remove that monster from the battlefield and set it up anywhere wholly within open ground within 5 inches of this unit. That monster suffers D3 mortal wounds. In addition, you suffer -1 to hit in that next combat phase. So I know you've had a couple of chances to have this a go, and you took someone to Suplex City. What did you find with Colossal Slam? Because I know a lot of people have raged already about, why do I have to be -1 to hit?
Yeah, it's a... Sorry, I have microphone issues. It's so great for the logistics of it. You can pick up something and put it off the objective, or a bubble type army that is trying to get their buffs to this massive base wholly within. Take it out of there. Somebody screened out your mega. Okay, well, I'm just going to move your monster. And with things like redeploy, where you can kind of move yourself around, seeing where your enemy is going to go, things like that, you can really choreograph this and set it up to get people off of things, closer to things, put them in combat with more megas, put them out of combat with a mega that's, limping on his last leg, whatever. You now get to move a monster and get it where it needs to go. Unprecedented. So cool and unprecedented.
All right, so let's think of some practical uses of Colossal Slam, because we are reducing our attack hit by 1, right? So we've already got low attacks and they're quite swingy, right? So it's a big sacrifice. It means that we are using all-out attack if we have to, or if you're in Breaker Tribe, you're going to hope for like your Fierce Loathing to kick in here. At the same time as well, if someone roars at you, then you can't use all-out attack, right? So there is potentially a big swing if you have the -1. But if I do Colossal Slam, what's some of the things, right? So you mentioned it already. I could take a monster off an objective. On an objective, off an objective. So you can pull them away if there's open ground. So they're less contesting on that objective.
Take them away from mythical terrain. Get them away from their 6-up board. Any armies that they're bubble buffs kind of thing. Even if you're thinking ahead, like, okay, this is my turn. We're going into my opponent's turn. Certain spells, even something as simple as, Mythic Shield. It's a holier than 12-inch. You got a monster that's really hard to do. Okay, I'm gonna move him closer to this model to go ahead and hit him without the -1, but I'm also going to pull him out of your wizard's buff range. Take him off an objective, or put him wherever is more convenient. Put him in combat. You've got a fresh mega that is standing there wanting to get in combat. Just pick him up, sit him right next to that guy. That guy's ready to go. Or you just need to protect a mega so that you can heroic recover him, or hope broad heals him, or you just need one more arcane tone spell out of him before he dies. Whatever. You get another turn where he lives because you sack that -1 to hit to get that damage away from that weak guy. It's great.
Yeah. Jonathan in the chat's made a really good comment. I love this. I actually probably wouldn't have connected with this on the spot, which is a really good call. Is you could grab Durthu, pull it out of the teleport area, right? So in its turn, it's going to teleport, but you could pull it out of the strike and fade area. And all of a sudden now he can't strike and fade, and you can punch Durthu in the face and he can't teleport out even in your opponent's turn. That's a great shout. That's a really good shout.
Yeah, that's smarter than us. We're Gargant players. He's big brain in it while we're talking about just suplexing with freaking wrestling masks.
But you're right. Like, you could pull them out of their buff ranges. You can pull them away from the objective. You can pull them out of arcane or mystical terrain, or any type of, if there's any buff for faction terrain and things like that. You can pull them out of one combat and put them into combat with another mega-gargant. So it's now a 2-on-1 situation, or man crusher as well.
You said something interesting too. Putting it in combat, pick up Kronspine and put him in if he's wild, put him into your opponent's army.
I love it. I also love re-rolling ones, Jack. I love you, mate. I wish I had you on the channel as well, because I know you'd be talking wrestling. You'd be interrupting every 5 seconds. We'd be talking about AEW and all the great wrestling. Oh, man.
Did you see his chat message there?
Request a timber from Bear. I think. Go and do it.
All right. My poor wife is somewhere in this house going to be wondering what's going on. Timber!
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, cool. All right, I think we all agree, punching people in the face. And for people who like punching people in the face, stay till the very end. I've got something special for you. Something that I've made for myself, but I'm sure everyone else could enjoy if you like to Colossal Slam. But I don't think you can Colossal Slam into Deadly and get a 1, because it's based on movement and things like that. So obviously in the next turn, yes, but certainly not when you actually do the Colossal Slam. Overall, 3 good utilities in the Monstrous Rampages that you've got in addition to the current one. So you've now got 7 choices to choose from. You can't complain there.
No.
You got 3 new command traits and 4 new artifacts. Now, one thing that they've done is in the past book, they had very specific artifacts and command traits for every tribe, and you were kind of stuck in this bubble, right? So if you wanted, yeah, that's how it was. Now what they've done is they've given us a universal set of command traits. So there are 3 command traits that any tribe can take. And then in addition, depending on your tribe, there's a couple of extra options. And that's also true with your artifacts. When you look at the command traits, you've got 3 of them. Do you like all 3? Are there ones that stand out more than others?
I think all 3 have their place. Monstrously Tough, it's an old one. We had that before, but it's now, to me, it's more exciting where you have Broad. So you take Broad, he's got 40 wounds. Your General now has 40 wounds. I mean, that's just even more. There's another 10 wounds right there to chew through. You can toss some wards in, another like 16% of, stuff that you're shoving off. And it's great. It's great for survival. Rabble Rouser, I've seen a couple people trying out some different builds where you just make like little speed bunnies out of your gargants. You can give them stuff to run and charge. Breaker Tribe, you can charge your babies 3d6. There's all kinds of stuff that adds speed. You've got Broad adding speed with his prayers and stuff. So now we got another +1 to charge, making our charges even easier. I don't think you necessarily need Alpha Strike, but you can kind of just like push people back into their zone and make them fight their way out. So this one also great. And then with the Furious Temper, also I got nothing to complain about there. Especially you get it on a Gatebreaker or something like that, and you're looking to maybe take your General and make him that first guy to push into an army, and now he also gets to finish at the top of his profile while they're trying to get around him. I mean, these are all really good, really got their own place in a list, however you want to play it.
I think my favorites are Monstrously Tough as number 1, Rabble Rouser as 2nd, and then Furious Temper as 3rd. My megas, I want them to be around as long as possible, so getting 40 wounds instead of 35 is great. There's an artifact in the Stomper Tribe that can give me a 5-up ward when I'm at 25 wounds. We'll talk more about the synergy, right? But the 40 wounds, getting an extra 5 wounds, allows me to heal back. There's so many good things that I can do with that. Rabble Rouser, you'll notice that there's a lot of abilities to do 3d6 charges on Man Crushers. So if you think about a 3d6 charge, adding 1 as well, you could be alpha striking, you could be doing long bomb charges, you could be threatening lots of parts of the board in the late game where you need to go from one side on the other to get an objective and to, kill that 1 or 2 idiots that are holding an objective. There's a lot of good play in Rabble Rouser for consistency. And yeah, Furious Temper is great, but it's an ability to trigger when I'm almost dying, and I don't like that. But the other one for me would be, you've got the art, and obviously there's stuff that comes with the tribes that we'll get to when we get to tribes, and then you've got the artifacts. So you've got 4 artifacts. You've got Callous, extra Callous Feet, which improves the Almighty Stomp, which is on every mega except for the War Stomper.
Yeah.
You've got Glowy Shield of Protection, which is going to reduce the Ren characteristic of 1 to 0, and you bounce some mortal wounds off. You've got Scavenger's Wake, which is a once per battle. You do some mortal wounds to a maximum of 10. And then you've got Amberbone Totem that allows you to run and charge. Yeah,
it's funny. There's less options now, but I can't complain about any of these. Some of them, on my first read through that I overlooked, and I was like, okay, cool, move on to the next one. I came back later and I was like, oh, there's play for this. There's synergy for this. Extra Callous Feet, it's great that it's now for everyone. As it left to count on tribes, a little jealous of the Kraken Skin Sandals last time for Taker Tribe, because this is really good. Adding that extra Rens characteristic and extra attacks characteristic to your Stomp. We talked about it earlier. You can kind of play some things around the fact that Terror has changed. And so this is one of those, just splitting your attacks, getting damage into some chaff, some units, some stuff like that, enough to force that bravery check. Really great. Same thing I was thinking for Scavenger Wake. This was the like I was talking about. I kind of looked over this at first, thinking, "Oh, once per battle, not my flavor. I like things that last the whole game." But once per battle, I get to throw even more mortal wounds out, like in a bubble around me, clear some things away from my feet, maybe get some things away from me so I can get out of combat and get across the field to where I need to be. Really just pull that trigger in a clutch moment, force a bravery check. I really like came back to that and said, okay, I really like that one. That's one I want to try out. Glowy shield, same thing. I looked at this at first, like, okay, ignore a rend, not that exciting. But then you start thinking, this meta right now, we're not seeing as much purple sun. It went up in points and took it away, but we still are seeing a lot of just weight of dice. You put a ton of range shooting attacks into something. If you go for that weight of dice, it will turn out for you a lot of the time. And now that weight of dice is taking that rend away from that mass shooting, mass attacks, whatever. So there's definitely some play there, and it bounces stuff back. So really, like double the use there. I really like it. It's definitely got a place, especially on putting it on just a mega that's not your general something, just to kind of keep that weight of dice away from him. And then who can complain about a run and charge? Especially you're already moving 10 inches, force of 6, 16 and a 2d6 charge. I mean, who can complain about that? That's great.
Yeah, I really like so first off, Amber Bone, I love it. I think it just has a mad threat range, right? Because one of the other changes that's happened that we didn't talk about just yet is all the mega-gargants went down to a base move of 10. So the old Gatebreaker used to be a 12-inch move. The Kraken Eater used to be an 11-inch move. So you've lost a little bit of speed, especially on the Gatebreaker. But being able to run and charge and use a command point to run 6, you're doing 16-inch move and you've still got the ability to charge. And there's a lot of deployment zones are like, if we're both deploying on the line, there might be an 18-inch gap between us. Boom, you're in combat super easy. So Amber Tone as a big threat, and you'll notice your opponents will not deploy on the line. They'll screen away from you as much as possible, which just means objective scoring and reducing damage and going, cool, if I'm one drop, you can go first because you've been scared of me kind of charging you turn 1. No problem. A lot of good flex there. Damage is great on the feet. The glowy shield I really like as well, especially if you think about getting like a mystic shield, finest hour. If you get a really good armor saved mega, they can soak up the damage and then bounce off, because as you mentioned, people will throw a weight of dice into the mega. And if you're just bouncing mortal wounds off, that's where I really like those artifacts. I'm not a big fan of Scavenger Wake in the current meta, just because there's a lot of units of like 5s and 10s. So you get a couple of mortal wounds, okay. But again, if we ever went into like a horde meta, people are double reinforcing their battle line, then we're talking.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, things like Daughters of Cain or Clan Rats or Nighthaunt. Yeah, this would work really well for me. But and maybe if you're struggling with Nighthaunt, this is a one good way to handle that. Before we move on, sorry, go on.
Well, I was just saying, the only thing, the one thing, you're flipping through the book and you're looking for all your favorite things. We lost Louder Than Words, and that was my bread and butter go-to command trait every time. +2 attacks on my Gatebreakers, flail to put them at 12 attacks, 3 damage each. I love that. I can 100% with the new synergy. I understand why it went away. It's kind of like seeing your child grow up and leave the nest. Like, oh, okay, that's fair, but I'll miss you. So
yeah,
all good.
I mean, we lost stuff like you'll see when we go to Take a Tribe. Glowy Lantern has had a big change now, and there's a lot of other changes that you'll notice, and you start looking at your favorite tribe. Shout out to us, by the way. It's almost 40 minutes now, and we've still got our masks on. So
I'm stubborn. It's a kind of you go first kind of things. Like who's gonna break?
This is like an Iron Man match. This is like we're gonna see mask versus mask. Who's going to unmask the first luchador?
So is this the LVO look? Like this is what we're going for?
Don't threaten me with a good time. Jack has asked a really good question before we transition, because I didn't talk about it in my last video, because everything with Kragnos hadn't changed since it got changed in December, or on Warhammer community made some updates, right? He got the 3d6 charge, he got the 6-up ward save. Craggy is still Craggy. He hasn't changed at all. His points are the same, his abilities are the same. What are your thoughts on Craggy at the moment?
I think he's still very much viable. I played Kragnos and Gargants for the majority of this year, and I loved it. It was fun, and the speed, even forget alpha striking, just the speed late game. If Kragnos is still alive, that I can get across the board, it's great. There's still a place for him with this ability to run and charge and 3d6 and stuff. You just kind of got to pick and choose how you build it. I think there's kind of my feelings on Kragnos right now is there are enough things in the meta, like some Skaven shooting and Lumineth shooting and different things like that, that can isolate Kragnos at 720 points and put mortals into him, which he only has a 6-up ward and 18 health, and you can isolate him, burn him down, and take him out, and then you've lost 700 points and a major portion to your army. So I stopped taking him, but that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with him. It's just my own playstyle. I think he absolutely, especially with the point reduction, the baby point reduction going down to 150 and everything, absolutely, you can still take him.
If anyone's just joined the chat, by the way, this is a nod to Colossal Slam, our new monstrous rampage. Big fans of the wrestling, taking people to Suplex City. Like I said, stay till the end of the show, and I'll show you my little game that I'm going to start playing as I start taking these to tournaments. For me, Kragnos, the way I look at him is he is a great damage dealer in our book, especially with the Gatebreaker losing some of its damage. The flail going from 10 attacks down to 6. Yes, it's 4 damage now, not 3 damage, but you'll see with swings of like hitting on 4, wounding on 3s, even 3s and 3s, unless you got a triumph, he'll do less damage than he did in the past. And if you find that you really need, like Archaon's about to go supercharge, right? The leaks of Slaves to Darkness have come out, and I imagine Archaon is going to be very, very popular. And if you need that threat, the Gatebreaker is probably not going to do it. You probably need 2 Gatebreakers to pull down Archaon. Or do you take a Kragnos who can do a 3d6 charge, can slingshot mega-gargants, which all of your tribes can only do it to man-crushers. He does mortal wounds to monsters on the charge and can do some very generous ones if you don't roll dice like me. And his mace is brutal. So if you're looking for that absolute damage dealer, Craggy is amazing. But as Bear said, he's only 18 wounds. So if you've got long range threats, like yesterday I played Daughters of Cain with Marathi and the Bow Snakes, a hero phase shooting and then a shooting phase shooting, doing mortals on 6s, like that'll pull down Kragnos pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So that's our thoughts on Craggy. There's pros and cons either way. Elevator, we got Taker Tribe. Taker Tribe's got a couple of things going on. 2 abilities. If you played Taker in the past, Taker is still Taker. Taker does more models on the objective. So your Man Crushers count as 15. Your Kraken Eaters count as +5. So depending on where they are on the damage table. There are 2 new command traits, 2 new artifacts. Well, two of each. In addition to those universal ones that we just spoke about. High level, what are you thinking with Taker Tribe? Do you like it? Where does it stand? Just general thoughts.
There's a couple things that stand out for me. One is, if you're just taking a couple little baby Gargants to camp objectives, they've now got 5 extra models on a point, which I can't complain. The things that I like very acquisitive. If you're going to do a 4 mega list, you've now got very acquisitive. So there's really interesting combinations you can do there to soup up a Kraken Eater, and then take 3 more megas, take 2 bosses of the Stomp. So now 2 of those 3 guys are sitting on artifacts as well. There's definitely some play there for taking your Kraken Eater and just like really souping him up with artifacts. I do like that. And then I also the Walloping Tentacles and the Glowy Lantern both, definitely some play there. The Walloping Tentacle, so now you've got 2 different ways to make stuff fight last. You've a hero and a monster that you can target and do fight last. And this one on a 4-up, you don't have to fight last yourself. And you could combo those. You've got 2 things in combat, a hero and a monster. You can now like do a whole lot of fight last. So really, really great. Glowy Lantern, this has changed. So you're no longer looking at a 2 wizard list, but you get to use an endless spell and you get to double its range, which really brings some interesting thoughts into thinking about survivability or damage. Take it either way. Send a Jaws, 16 inches and then another 3d6. Amazing. Really like, especially with the loss of damage, now we're putting more damage back in there. 10-inch movement, even, it's not really threatening. If Cairo something steals your endless spell, that type of thing, it's not as big a threat to you. If it goes wild and your opponent gets to move, it's not as big a threat. It's not going to do as much damage to you. You can toss shards out, and it's now doubling the range. So now you're just putting it in somebody's army early in the game, making them just slow walk to the gargants that count as 20, 25 models anyway. Putting up the Soul Snare Shackles and putting them nice out in front of you to make people walk around them, because it's no different. People are on a timer to kill and to bracket these models, and so you get things out there like endless spells, and you get them twice as far away from you, slowing people down or cutting people off and boxing people out, screening people out. It's great, absolutely great. So I like all those are my 3 favorite parts of this tribe.
Couple of quick things that I want to mention. First off, really good comment in the chat, and I think this will be FAQ'd, so don't read too much into it. So the Glowy Lantern, technically, when you look at the core rules, you can't pick an endless spell until you have a wizard in your army, and the Glowy Lantern doesn't make you a wizard. So technically, you're not meant to be able to pick an endless spell before you. So you need an arcane tome. Now that I think they'll clarify, because that doesn't make sense that they would have this but not allow you to do it. Seems dumb. But so just wait for the FAQ on that one. I think a couple of things that I'd call out with Take a Tribe is, if I'm going Take a Tribe, I don't know if I want multiple actual what are they called? What's his bloody Kraken Eater? What? I'm like, because most of them takers. Have like, no, that's, I'm like take them. Like, what's their bloody name again? No, because like, yeah, like why? I don't know if I want to take multiple Kraken Eaters, because they're a utility. They've got a really good range in shooting. They've got some good shooting attacks. Their damage profile's all right, but they're a bit of a jack of all trades, master of none. And I do like them, don't get me wrong, but I think, if I want damage, I go somewhere else. If I want other things, I go somewhere else. For me, I love extremely intimidating, being able to shut off Inspiring Presence and Rally within 6 instead of like, there's some good stuff there as well. Like 6 inches as a mega-gargant base is very generous. What else? Obviously, when I think about the difference between, say, the Take a Tribe and the Stomper Tribe, Take a Tribe really rewards you for taking like lots of units of 1, while I feel like the War Stomper Tribe rewards you for taking the mobs. So if you want to run lots of little ones counting as 15, that's a great way of handling battle tactics that have 5, 6, 7, 8 objectives, because you've got a lot of bodies spread across, all counting as 15. So they're the couple of things. I don't mind this one. It's not my favorite. The I want that for me collection is a little bit restrictive. I feel like if I want to get I don't know.
Yeah, like it's restrictive. Extremely intimidating, and then take a Glowy Lantern, get a Horror Ghast in there. So all your megas are shutting off Inspiring within 3. Your general shuts off Inspiring and Rally within 6, and then Horror Ghast is also shutting it off somewhere that you're not standing for your shooting, and is making D3 more runaway. I think it could be really disgusting.
Yeah, because one thing that you struggle as a mega-gargant player is if you've got a castle and you need to take out a linchpin, let's say, for example, it's the Cruciator in Nighthaunt, or if it's little Morathi sitting at the back, casting Mind Razor and rallying and like all these things, right? We all got those armies where we need to be able to get into the backfield. At the moment, we rely on throwing rocks at them. It's our one and only trick. So being able to get like Glowy Lantern and getting swords out there, getting gnashing jaws, getting some of those more offensive builds and getting out there and doubling the range, that's one way of handling it. And pulling down some of those 5-6 wound, like swords will pull down a minor hero pretty quickly.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
So cool. Talk tribe. And anything else you'd mention about we take a tribe?
No, nothing. Not a big complaint thing. I think it's good. It's got a place.
Breaker Tribe has a lot of commonality, so it still has breaking down the house, which is extra damage for man crushers if there is if the unit is ungarrisonable or wholly within terrain. You've still got the ram. Oh, you've got a new ability, this ramming speed ability, which is a command ability. So you have to issue the command ability on man crushers, and until the end of the phase, they get a 3d6 charge instead of a 2d6 charge, and they can declare a charge if the enemy is within 18, not 12 of an enemy. So you can get a Kragnos ability without taking Kragnos. Yep. The other thing as well is the Fierce Loathing table is reduced. There used to be 6 options. There's now only 3. Let's be honest, we only really use 2 of them at most anyway. And that is either +1 to hit for all of your Gatebreakers and your Man Crushers if they target a hero or wizard. +1 to hit if you are fighting a unit with command models or totem, or you can get +1 to hit against a war machine or monster. So what's your high-level thoughts on Breaker Tribe?
It definitely got clipped a little bit. This was my bread and butter. Like, this was my jam going into this book. I was a Breaker Tribe fan. I don't miss the extra Fierce Loathings. Ramming speed is really great, to get a guy across the field, go ahead and spend that CP, get that guy moving, especially late game when you've lost a couple Gargants. So really good. Breaking down the house, it's, we had that last time. Really good to let your opponent know, hey, you can stand on that piece of terrain, but it hurts more. For the command traits, I'm not as excited about these. I kind of like to go back to just the classic. Everyone can take them command traits. Take like Monstrously Tough, Extremely Bitter. I don't necessarily think I would rather have a second Fierce Loathing as compared to 5 wounds. In this world, so it's okay. Sees Red, really not a big fan. It's very situational. And then Great Rekka, pretty cool. I would have really loved it if it was in the last book and I was swinging like 12 times with a flail, but also still good. Still something I'm considering. And then King Slaughter Cow. This one actually kind of confused me. Sorry, Gatebreakers, I still love you, but I can just give you Manticore poison. So, yeah, not sure why I would go restrict myself further.
Yeah. Look, Breaker Tribe is still one of my favorites. I love ramming speed. Ramming speed, being able to soak up and unleash hell by throwing a single man crusher into the line. Being able to make long range threats, as we've talked about earlier on, scoring objectives. And there's already some other little shenanigans when we get to the Man Crusher War Scroll as well. They're being able to run and charge. There's just so many great things with the ramming speed. Definitely more used for your CP. Idiots with Flags is probably my favorite of the Fierce Loathings. Just being able to get extra damage. And if I go into a monster, I've always got like Titanic Jewel if I need that +1 to hit anyway. I probably agree with you on the Great Wrecker getting some extra attacks in the D, so extra damage through the flail. It does, as I mentioned, the flail went down from 10 attacks to 6 attacks, so you don't get as many opportunities for the D3, but the extra damage is going to be appreciated. And yeah, I thought that both command traits were pretty meh. I was not a fan of either.
Yep, still love Breaker Tribe because you can go back to the generic stuff for the book and enhance it. And honestly, with the reduction in attacks, I love Gatebreakers. They're probably my favorite. But without Idiots with Flags, I almost feel like they're kind of too swingy for me with only 6 attacks. So this to me is really the better way to play them, the only way to play them if you want them in your list.
Yeah. It's still a great tribe. It's a great tribe. And the fierce loathing table can allow you to flex with the meta as well. So if we go into a hero hammer, boom, you can go into bossy boots and clever cogs. If you're in a horde meta, or if you got a whole bunch of like lots of infantry and GVs, yeah, your totems and your command models are great. By the way, some heroes also have the totem, right? So, that's going to benefit you there anyway. And then if we happen to go into a monster meta and we go back into something that was like GBH21, then wannabes might actually have a play as well, depending on what type of monster. But you often find monsters are also heroes, so pick your poison.
I love when you find that one random army where you step up, you meet your opponent, and you're like, by the way, I'm +1 to hit any totems. And they're like, oh, these are all totems. My whole army is totems. Like, oh, okay. That's great.
Like, I think, don't quote me on this, internet, but I feel like I think there's been times where like the Daughters of Cain Cauldron might have the chariot, the totem keyword, or maybe I'm just drunk.
The avatar, he has it.
There's plenty of things that have like these snoky, like there's all these little things that have like the sneaky totem keyword that you'd never think about that will give you +1 hit with the Idiots with Flags. So I really like that one.
Yeah.
Next up is Stomper Tribe. Now, this has had a massive glow up. It was trashed here in the old book. This now is maybe my second favorite, maybe even challenging for first. I'm undecided. I actually really like Stomper Tribe. So in the past, you couldn't use the generic command abilities. Now you can. There's a couple of extra things as well. By the way, your man crushers can now throw rocks all the time. They're not restricted by some stupid rule. That's gone out the window. A couple of things you need to know with your Stomper Tribe. You have the big shout. So basically, you can issue multiple commands. Like if you've ever played like, what was it? Gordrak / the Mega Boss, or there's a couple of units that can issue multiple commands for one CP. It has a very similar rule. You've got this chucking, grab those rocks and chuck them, where you get to have +1 attack on the throwing rocks as a shooting phase command. And that's a D3 attack. Is it D3 rocks from memory?
No, it's 1. So that's where it changed. The attack's characteristic is now 1.
It's D3 damage.
Yeah, it's D3 damage, but every baby gets it.
Yes. Yeah. So you get some good volume out of them. And then finally, you've got Get Stuck In. So you get to add, now this is a meta situational. You get to add +1 damage for man crushers if they're targeting a unit that has 10 to 19 models. Or you get to add 2 damage to each successful attack by the man crusher if they're targeting a unit with 20 or more models. So, and then there's 2 command traits, 2 extra artifacts.
So what's great here is in the old Stomper Tribe, the only real saving grace was there was a lot of people use it and stuff, but they were using it on the defensive builds, or I'm going to stand here and you have to move me, and it had good artifact stuff. But the saving grace for a more swingy attack thing was this getting stuck in type thing in the last book. Now, if I don't use it at all, this is still really good. The Man Crusher Gargants, in a world where GW, I would love to see a battle scroll soon that gets rid of Kronspine and I can run baby Gargants. I can now just dish out all out attack to all of my baby gargants and let them go in and swing. Grab those rocks and chuck them. Awesome if you need to, try to get a hero out of there or get some screens out of your way. Really great. Getting stuck in, we said, meta shifts. We go to a horde meta. Man, all of a sudden the glow up just goes +1. We're glow up +1, loving Stomper Tribe even more. The really big one for me is Club of the First Oak. This is just great. So you get a little heal, great. Heroic recovery, add to it. Broad, add to it more. A little bit of heal. But if you have taken 25 wounds, not how much you have left, that doesn't matter. It's how much you've taken. So monstrously tough. You've taken 25 wounds. You have 15 left, and you have a 5-up ward. I saw it. I was reading an article from Plastic Crake. Then it compared that is an entire stone horn that you now need to lift. It's 15 wounds, a 5-up ward, 4-up save. That's great. Absolutely great right there.
Yeah, and you can see obviously healing throughout the game. You can still do heroic recovery, so getting an extra heal as well to kind of keep the durability down. I really like Mantle of the Destroyer, the other artifact, and we're talking about this before we went on air, was giving your Sons of Behemat units a bravery 10 within 12 inches is amazing. In a meta that might be shutting off Inspiring Presence, you don't want a 12 wound Man Crusher to run away, or 2. That's a brutal, and their bravery is what, 7, 6? Like Man Crusher bravery is trash. Being able to boost that to a bravery of 10 is incredible. If you do a heroic recovery, having a bravery of 10 is a greater chance of healing 3 wounds, as opposed to failing it with a mega-gargant with a bravery of 7. So I think both of the artifact choices are awesome in Stomper. I'm not a big fan of like Escapable Grip. I think Eager for the Fight is definitely the better of the command traits. And when you look at it, it's really buffing you around taking Man Crushers and Man Crusher Mob. I love the idea of multiple Man Crusher mobs and maybe a couple of Man Crushers, but Broad then just brings an extra dimension. We'll talk about it soon, but Broad itself and what the priest brings to the table brings some utility to the Stomper Tribe.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to just get both these artifacts in a list and get some baby gargants running out there just all over the place. Really have a nice footprint across the field. I can't wait to try this one.
Yeah. This is the one that I'm most excited to try. Like, we know what Breaker Tribe does. I think Stomper Tribe is going to be the one that I'm excited to at least give an exploration. The other one that I feel like is a year too late, and maybe you'll change my mind, is the Smasher Tribe. Now, Smasher Tribe is based around the Beast Masher, which is a brand new alternative kit from the Suns. The upgrade sprue now that's in the new box. So King Broad and the Beast Smasher are the 2 new variants. Now, this is very, very much focused around monsters. So you'll see there are 2 new abilities. You've got the Bone Crushing Strikes, where if a friendly Man Crusher fights, if it's within 3 inches of a monster, you basically can do an alternative attack. So instead of doing your massive clubs, you reduce that attack to 1. It can't be modified, and it's a 4d6 damage, and it must be against the monster. The other one is a command ability that obviously your general issues to the Man Crushers, and until the end of that phase, you use the top bracket of the damage table. And until the end of the phase, if it's slain, it can fight before being removed from play. Then there's a couple of other command traits and artifacts. I think for me, maybe Bear's dog's still barking, but I think when I look at the command trait, I think I don't mind the Marrow Drinker. Seas Green is kind of nice, getting a once per battle 4-up ward, but it's only for the phase, not the turn. So that kind of makes me a bit and the artifacts are all right. I think the artifacts are all right. But for me, overall, I don't see the value just yet in the Smasher Tribe.
Yeah, this, I think this could be fun. And like you said, it's a book too late. If we're still in this big monster meta, it could be a lot of fun. For all of you out there, just want to try something new and are just playing a game with friends, I think this could be hilarious. Coming in and dropping 4d6 baby shots from a mob into an Archaon and just saying, who's king now. I think it can be hilarious. I think it can add a lot of fun. But there's a lot of the stuff in this book too that is that. It's quirky, it's fun, it's destruction, it's a destruction tome, and it's high risk, high reward, ridiculous shenanigans, and it's great. And this is one of those for now. I don't really like Seas Green. I think that's kind of a miss. You're getting the 4-up ward just against mortals. Very, very situational. The artifacts are pretty cool. Adding the +1 to hit is neat, especially if you are able to field a large army. Maybe not, even if you're doing 4 megas, just rolling in and adding +1 to hit one time. It's not too much to complain about. But we said it earlier. If the meta shifts too, if we go back to Monster Hammer or something, this could be insane. I don't think it is right now, but I think it's a lot of fun right now. I'm really excited with re-rolling ones in the channel to stick my Beast Smasher that I'm painting up today on the channel and just having a blast and watching him whiff or just crush things and laughing about it.
Yeah, and we're talking at this from a very competitive point of view. If you want to build this and you want to run it, I think there's absolutely, it's not bad. Like, I think you can definitely run it. I just think at the moment with the current meta and where we stand, the incentives aren't necessarily to run monsters. You are seeing more of these elite troops that can be bounty hunters going in, trying to kill, GVs and things like that. And we're not 2021, where the battle tactics were focused around monsters get bonuses here and monsters score more here. There was that incentive structure that is just not here right now. And we'll get into the war scroll and we can talk a little bit about it. But at the moment, I'm a little bit underwhelmed at this point in time. But the ability to do 46 damage for a man crusher is very cool. And there is a couple of different options. Yeah, that's probably all I'd say.
These are pretty good, but I think if you rolled in against like Stormcast and with these guys and this tribe, I don't think he's swinging at his points. Really fun, really great model. Great job GW on this dude. It was a great addition, but he's not my competitive choice right now.
This is what I would summarize, though, in the chat right here. Depends on how many Archaons we see, because the Archaon War Scroll was leaked. He is OP. He's got more wounds. He shuts off Inspiring Presence within 12 inches. He is definitely more of a threat. And I can see Slaves to Darkness people running lots of Archaons. And you may struggle to pull down these big bad. So if you need something and the Gatebreaker's not enough, the Beast Smasher might be for you.
Yeah, watch me eat my words where we're heading into LVO and it's an Archaon and Thunder Lizard meta and I'm running 4 Beast Smashers, Who knows?
Well, it just shows you, and this is why I'm not willing to rubbish anything too early, because the meta changes so quickly that something right now might not be valuable can actually become incredibly valuable very quickly. And we write something off too early, we don't revisit it, and actually it could be the tool to respond to the meta, right? So just keep it in mind.
Yeah, when they announced this infantry meta that I'm still waiting to see, I was like, oh man, Stomper Tribe, here we go. We're getting some War Stompers. I need some new models. I'm getting my Man Crushers and Bounty Hunters out there. And it can change. It can change in a heartbeat.
What's your thoughts? So we got some grand strategies, we got some battle tactics, and we've got 2 new battalions. Technically not new because they were in the White Dwarf update, the Foot Slogger and the Bosses of the Stomp. When you look at the grand strategies, do you think they're achievable? Do you think some are stronger than others? I'm not a massive fan of all of the grand strats. I think there's definitely 1, 2, maybe 3 of the 4, but I know there's one that I'll probably pick most of the time.
Yeah, so I was already a fan of Make the Land Tremble. I've been running that since the drop of the new General's Handbook. There's been a lot of talk of Broad's Revenge. that, you know, is it achievable? How hard is it? It's for those gamblers out there, because and we'll see King Broad's War Scroll here in a second. We'll talk about them. You know, you have 5 turns to land 3 successful prayers.
Yeah.
And so how much are you willing to gamble? A lot of people chat it up of maybe taking that. I'm still a Make the Land Tremble fan, but I also build my list for that. I tried to have just a single baby, you know, 170 point, 150 point now, I guess, tax that is just jogging in place like he's on a treadmill in order to make sure I score those 3 points.
Yeah, I've tried Make the Land Tremble in the past, and it's normally when I run 4 mega-gargants, and I hate it in the end, because once you're locked in combat, I'm stuck, right? And I think the key is what you just literally said, is you've got to have at least one little baby that might be protecting your backfield or be using in the flanks somewhere, that you can either be running or charging with that one particular model. So if you are building 4 megas, I think for me On the Warpath would probably be my favorite of the builds. I'm going to try Brod's Revenge. Now, Brod does get a bonus to his prayer chanting rolls if he kills a monster. So if you can get that early kill, it becomes very achievable. But he has no shooting attack either. So you've got to get Brod. You've got to get Brod into combat early. If not, you are playing a bit of a casino role on Brod's Revenge. So On the Warpath's probably my favorite. Make the Land Tremble is second, depending on if I've got those man crushers and if they're singles. Brod Revenge, yes. And I probably don't like Show 'em Who's Boss.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Show 'em Who's Boss. In my style, I'm very skeptical for On the Warpath. Can I get into my enemy's territory, especially something like there is a battle plan that I'm thinking of, Rumstone Cache, where you have a matchbox size territory and it's going to split. It's going to send you to some board edge somewhere, and I need to, for those last 3 points, I need to get into that little matchbox, at least dip my toes in it. And that makes me nervous. I'm a Make the Land Tremble fan.
Yeah. Yep. I can see that challenge as well. By the way, another cracking point from Jonathan is you could put Brod on mystical terrain, which gives you +1 to your priest chanting roll. So
absolutely.
One of the reasons I'm also high on Brod is his ability to be able to interact with priests. So, you know, Fire Slayers with your cheaty grand strategy of keep your invocation up and you in, or Daughters of Cain with that Heart of Fury. I can at least now interact with them, which is one of the things I absolutely love with Brod, and Brod will be coming up in a second. Bosses of the Stomp, Foot Sloggers as battalions are still very good, being able to go unified to lower your drops or get an extra enhancement or get Swift to get an extra ability. Depending on how you build them, you could go double Boss Stomp, you can go single Boss Stomp and Foot Slogger. It's a shame that Foot Slogger can't be used with Man Crusher mobs. It's only single Man Crushers. So that's probably my only downfall with Foot Slogger, but both are good.
Yeah.
I assume Bear agrees with me.
No, yeah. I agree. Absolutely.
You're on mute, I think.
No,
I've completely lost your audio. Finally, you've got some other battle tactics. You've got 6 battle tactics. You've got a heap of good battle tactics. Bear, you with me still?
Again, can you hear me now? I might check on your own, maybe. Looks like they can hear me. I think Coach lost his own audio. How's that?
Sorry, it was my headphones that turned off for some reason.
That was me. I thought I was going crazy. Man, I didn't touch anything. I will say my face has started to itch. I think I'm calling it on this mask. We're at an hour 15.
We're doing well. Sorry. My headphones decided to turn off, so that's my fault. My apologies there. But you do have 6 battle tactics you can choose from. How awkward was that? Bear's talking, and it looks like he's talking, but appreciate it. No, it was my headphones decided to turn off.
No, all good. Yeah, battle tactics. So you got the original 3 from the White Dwarf, where they're a little situational depending on what you take in your actual army itself. The rest of them really neat. If you are able to accomplish all 3 of the books, monstrous rampages all at the same time, and it says carry out. So Coach wins the mass thing. I'm starting to like my eyeballs are itching. I give up, and I want caffeine. There's discussion here, and I can't believe I'm saying that something as simple as a Gargant book needs an FAQ, but it does. We need to clarify some of these things. Like it says carry out these 3 monstrous rampages. So if I use them and I don't successfully do them, does that count? That's a discussion I'm seeing all over the place right now. And so definitely looking forward to clarification on that. And then I really like Splat. I think it's hilarious. Can I kill a hero with my throwing rocks and stuff? Very risky because heroes get like lookouts and things like that. So it's risky, it's situational, but it's super fun. And I look forward to making a hero go splat and laughing and yelling some nonsense. And then Colossal Violence, Titanic Duel. Yeah, same thing. Just it's a good one. It's thematic and it's useful. It's a very useful one that you can turn to without it being broken or unfair or anything like that.
Yeah, you just got to watch out for the redeploy.
Yeah,
that's probably my. You set up. You specifically say I'm going to charge this monster, and it now has a target on its head, right? So you're redeploying. You're trying to block off a charge, and if you can't, obviously Titanic Duel is no dice roll. It's just you do it. So as long as you can hit that charge, that is a relatively easy one to do. So there's a couple of good ones for me.
And then we got our, the boss of the stomp, stayed the same, still love it. Yeah. Foots Lagos, still good. Probably going to see it more because hopefully we're going to start seeing more babies here soon come out in force.
Yeah. So overall, good stuff for us. And again, apologies, my phone decided to switch. See what happened. King Broad, brand new war scroll. It is a unique hero for us, so you can't customize him in any way. He is unique, certainly new to us. 40 wounds, 4 up armor save, bravery 9, movement of 10, just like every other mega-gargant. There is some interesting weapon profile. So the Almighty Stomp and the Death Grip are relatively the same. It has a unique Obelisk of the Taurocrania, which is 4 attacks, though it does degrade over time. Hits on 3s, wounds on 3s, rends to 5. Couple of other unique things to him is the Creepers rule, which in each charge phase, the first time this an enemy monster within 3 inches wants to do a monstrous rampage, and you can shut off the opponent's monstrous rampage. So that's a cool rule. And as I've already mentioned, it's a priest, so it has this power of Behemat rule. So chanting value of 3, 1 to the chant, add +1 to the chant if you slay a monster, and you carry that for the rest of the game. And you've got this shatter the mountains, might of the earth, and pummel all to dust. So what's your take on Broad? Broad is 580 points, by the way. So a big points investment. And I've noticed very quickly, he's throwing off a lot of my lists. He's screwing me out.
Yeah, I saw that too. I wasn't upset by 580 points. That did not upset me. He brought in a lot of the best of kind of things from all of his megas in the kingdom out there. He's got 40 wounds. Great. He's 25 on a point, so same as a Kraken Eater in the Tiger Tribe. So he's got all these cool things. It's just the math. The math keeps just that much throwing off my list where I'm like, okay, I'm going to take Broad, and now I'm 10 points over where I'm allowed to be. But so what do you get for him? Creepers. Creepers are awesome. In a world where we now have all these unique monstrous rampages and everything else, creepers are shutting off Roar. They're shutting off Titanic Duel. They're shutting off all these things that you don't want against you. Awesome. So cool. Such a unique thing to shut down monstrous rampages. which haven't been around for that long. I really love that. His Power of Behemat. At first, I goofed this when I was practicing with him. You get to pray first and then pick later. So these 3 things are once per game. But if you fail, you still get to try again. You don't. It's not a lose it if you fail. So you pray first, pick later. Really, really good there. His weapon, I'd like him as King of the Gargants to be just a little more scary in combat. 5 damage is scary. -2 rend isn't as scary. I could go for the King of the Gargants, Behemat's chosen over here wearing the crown. I could go for a little more oomph in combat, more like Gatebreaker size, but he's got great things to him. You got an extra dispel, which great. If you're taking Arcane Tome and this dude, I think it can be a powerful combo. I would also, the GW out there for flavor, I think he needs to be affected by tribes. If he's not going to get his own tribe, then his tribe should buff him. He's the king. Let him in the front door and let him get some buffs from that. Or at least something. There should be like a little caveat on there that says, like, if you have King Broad, he gets +1 to hit idiots with flags and nothing else from this tribe. Great model, super cool.
Most of the tribe stuff affects Man Crushers anyway, so it's not like it's all like Man Crusher this, Man Crusher that. So I would love to see more interaction with Broad with the tribes. But while we're talking about Broad, and I guess given that Broad is 580 points and Kragnos is 720, you'll find that it's almost impossible to run both at the same time, unless you just want to have a couple of Man Crushers running around. That's your army. What's your thoughts on Kragnos versus King Broad?
So I think it's apples and oranges. I think they're going to accomplish 2 different things. You're not going to shove Broad down somebody's throat like you would Kragnos. Broad's going to be holding down a point, buffing his dudes, healing his dudes. He's going to be doing his thing as the king. And if you get near the king's going to, not go ahead and drop his obelisk on your face. But completely different things. I wouldn't use them together because they don't synergize, even if they're points. I think it'd be funny, if I taking a point from Jeremy V and taking a meme list. If somebody wants to invite me to an invitational to be a chucklehead and do something silly, maybe I'll bring Kragnos, Broad, and some babies. I'll throw a crutch spine in there while I'm at it, and we'll just have fun. Maybe a purple sun, while we're going at it, and we'll just throw everything weird in there. But I don't see a practical way to combine them. You're looking for 2 different types of armies.
Not from a competitive point of view, I guess, is the key, right? Again, if you want to run them both, you have fun, fill the rest of your army with Man Crushers, but they do take up a lot of points. And
you might not have friends after that game either. If you're garage hammering with Kragnos, Broad, and whatever craziness you throw on that list, your friends may not forgive you just by free beer. That's probably a friendship ender, but it could be fun.
Yeah. There's a couple of other things as well, probably to call out that's consistent across the other War Scrolls. So Almighty Stomp, Crushing Charge, Death Grip, Long Shanks, Sons of Behemat, and Terror and Timber are all consistent across most, if not all, of the megas. I think Almighty Stomp might be the only, there's one of them that isn't on the War Stomper. The one that I'd love to really talk to you about is probably Terror. Because, we're used to mega-gargants doing mortals on the charge. We're used to them not being auto-slayed by like the Slayer of Kings or, Hand of Dust. One of the things that when I saw it initially, I screamed to the heavens. I was so excited. Terror used to cause -1 bravery when you were within 6 or something of a mega-gargant. Now it shuts off Inspiring Presence within 3 inches of the mega. Now, we talked earlier about the Taker Tribe. There was that ability to shut off Inspiring Presence and rally within 6. But every mega, regardless of what tribe you're on, is shutting off Inspiring Presence within 3. Thoughts?
This was the number one thing when I read the book on our pre-release, and this was like the number one thing. I was like, "This is great. This is so good," because I can't begin to explain how many times there's been like one Hobgrot that survives and holds me in combat, or whatever chaff it was, especially like little Slanesh units or whatever. There's that one dude, like, oh, I'm going to inspire him. Now your Gatebreaker's stuck there, swinging his 30-some damage into a one-wound grot. Take that. No, you don't get to inspire him. He gets to run away. But what's funny, Mason Knox from the channel, really amazing player, better than me, super great at like finding the nuances. If you look at the Bone Grinder Gargant, because he's Forge World, he is not in here. His terror still says -1 bravery. So, you know, you take a Bone Grinder, he's not that great. You stick him next to a Mega, you now got -1 bravery, and you don't get your inspiring presence, and it's funny.
Yeah, I would not be recommending that, kids, because no, because Forge World models are always have a lag on their War Scroll, so there might be an update to the Bone Grinder coming in the future, right? And who knows if it's still going to be legal? It could get retired and legend for all we know. But if you've got it, have fun. If not, yeah. But yes, there is that combination if you wanted to do it, or you could find some sinister terrain or some other way to debuff bravery in addition. Yeah, overall, really good options. I think you're bringing some utility to the army, but he's not your main damage dealer. That's what King Brod is doing.
No, he's the king. He is there just to survey his 3 other buddies that are punching your face in.
Yep. You got your Beast Smasher. So your Beast Smasher is the new mega-gargant. What was your thoughts on the Beast Smasher? And you'll notice there it says Almighty Stomp, Crushing Charge, Death Grip. A lot of the similarities. The 2 differences are at the top in the Beast Breaking Smash Strike, and I'm making up words. And Behemoth Brawler.
Yeah, I guess we didn't talk about either. Almighty Stomp did change, and so did Death Grip. They used to be rerolls of 1. Now Almighty Stomp add 1 to hit. If you're going against something with 3 or less wounds on its characteristic, and then Death Grip, if you're putting that into a monster, you get to, for all the D&D nerds, you get to roll damage with advantage for tossing nerd stuff out there, which is really cool. So they did change that up a bit, and that's on across all the megas. This guy is cool. I mean, no way around it. He can roll in, and you combine Broad, getting that little extra rend in there on the club, and then land your all-out attack, Titanic Duel, whatever, land a 2-up on his 1 Beast Smasher thing for 5d6 damage. That's scary. It's fun. It's so fun to just take that risk. You take that gamble, high risk, high reward. And I think he's really cool. He's got a place in armies. I'm painting mine up. I'm excited for him, excited to use him on the channel. And, I'm even, excited to maybe take him to some events here soon. Try him out. Why not?
What gets me excited about the Beast Smasher, and like I'm reserved as well. Like I think the question is, do I take a Man Crusher mob or a Gatebreaker or a Beast Smasher? Because they're my 3 damage dealers around the same points. Yeah. When I look at Behemoth Brawler, being able to issue 2 monstrous rampages instead of 1, I think that could be quite powerful. That could be a Roar and a Titanic Duel. That could be a Roar, and it could be one of the ones that we have, a Colossal Slam or something like that. There's a lot of good options there to take down that real big beastie, which is what I really enjoy. But I want your opinion on the Beast Breaking Strike, where basically you sacrifice your club attacks, you turn it into 1. And if you can land those attacks, it's going to do, 5d6 damage.
Yeah, I love that. I love the risk. I love the reward. And, there's so many things out there, too, that if just going ahead and going, you've got so many things you can use against a monster now with your monstrous rampage and stuff. So I can make him strike last, and I can put some other attacks into him from some other places. If I'm facing something like Archeon, whatever, see how low I can get him. And if that 5d6 is going to make a difference, like, I get to go first and the strike last in my turn. So Archeon's going last. I'm like, okay, let's see if we can put him down, 5d6 damage. Let's see what it does. And I love it. I think it's just so cool. And as the meta shifts and changes, because, you get to hold this book for a while, I think it can do just some really, really cool things.
Yeah, I think if you think about the combination of Behemoth Brawler and the Beast Strike, look, it's a bit of like going to the casino. It's gonna either whiff and do nothing. I did the maths, and the Man Crusher version of this on 4d6, the average is 14 damage if you land the strike. Now, if you combine Behemoth Brawler and you do, let's say, Roar and Titanic Jewel, so you negate, so you get +1 to hit, and you shut off all that defense, that Ren 3, as long as you're not going into somebody who has gone, finest hour, you can avoid a lot of that safe stacking, obviously Mystic Shield as well. That Ren 3 could possibly go through and does what, 17 damage on average on 5d6, 17, 18 would be the average.
I would love to combine this with Broad. So if you've got the Beast Smasher, he's got 2 monstrous rampages. So he can suplex and Titanic Duel to offset it.
Yeah.
Broad's crawlers get to shut down any monstrous rampages coming back at you. And then Broad can just go in there and roar him. So you take a D3 damage, getting suplexed into a new combat. You've got a Beast Smasher that is not roared, so he can all-out attack, putting him on 2s and 2s. You're roared. I mean, there's really great things you can do there. The ability to shut off a monstrous rampage while getting 2 on a mega that you can just sit nearby Broad can be really, really awesome if you're facing a strong, like, army-centric or monster-centric army list.
Yeah, I agree. It's and anyone who's heard us to talk about Sons in the past, I rarely, if ever, run one mega at the same time. It's always power pairs when possible, because one doesn't do enough damage. It's not consistent enough. It really needs 2 or at least 1 mega and some support from Man Crushers.
Yeah, the only time is if it's a sacrifice. If I need to just get your castle stuck in your territory, or if I need to hold an objective against Skaven cannons or the high shooting, whatever, I'll stick 1 dude in range. I'll stick 1 dude as a threat out there and reserve the rest of my army back out of your range. So I just keep feeding. That's the only time. Everything else, you have a melee army, I'm doubling up. I'm redeploying everything else to line up my 2 guys to have a buddy fight. And Suplex makes that even better now.
Yeah, and then this is where the internal synergy starts kicking in. When you kick in Broad, you kick in the different types of monstrous rampages, you kick in some of the other things that we've gotten. The army becomes way more ways to play the army, rather than just run forward, do damage, or run away and sit on objectives. There's a lot more interplay through the game, and it'll be way more interactive. Without getting into too much of the weeds, because a lot of the other ones didn't change too much. There were some minor changes here and there on some of the language, or there was a Ren drop here and there. Anything you'd want to call out on the new version of the Kraken Eater?
I don't think on his actual War Scroll. I think this right here, what's big for him is his artifacts and his tribe. That's my real takeaways on this guy. He did go up in damage, so still -2 Ren, 4 damage. No complaints there. That's still nothing to ignore. That can definitely put a hurt in. But otherwise, yeah, I think he's a good at his points. Pretty decent damage. I think the Taker Tribe has some good things to back him. Doubling up on artifacts, you can really make him a threat. So.
He did go up in damage, but he did go down in attack. So I think the War Club used to be 8 attacks. For me, I'm taking the Kraken Eater as my utility, right? I love him with his shooting attack as well as his damage. I love him being a bearer of Arcane Tome and being able to do things in the backfield, because I don't necessarily want him as my first line of attack. He's usually my second wave or a support. But he hasn't changed too much. So like he is what he is. He's always done, and his points didn't change. So that's reflective of the War Scroll not moving.
Yeah, Flame Tongue weapon on taking that to a damage 5, and then giving him what used to be the Kraken Scandals, the Callous Feet. Giving him the Callous Feet for a better stomp. He's definitely no slouch.
Yeah, and called that in the chat here, AT saying, things like the universal, things like the Vial of the Manticore getting +1 to wound on a chosen weapon is it is a great choice for Endless. And this is where things like Bosses of the Stomp getting extra artifacts into your army, you've got great universals in the Vial of the Manticore and Arcane Tome, and you've also got some really good ones in your universal and tribe option. So that you're spot for choice. You're spot for choice.
Artifacts, command traits, and triumph are huge in this type of army where you're taking just a few huge models. Those artifacts just go so much further than that 5-7 wound hero, or some guy, even your 10 wound guys, your bigger heroes and stuff. When you got 35 wound guy with this much damage and everything else, artifacts, triumph, anything you can do for those little buffs goes a massive way.
It's something that it's very counterintuitive for most Age of Sigmar players. Is you got 2,000 points and we want to spend as many of those points as possible. But as a Suns player, I got really comfortable spending 1920, 1910. I'm like,
40,
I could take
50. 50 is kind of my cap.
No, I'm running lists at 1920. So I'm like, do I take an endless spell? Do I take an endless spell? Or do I guarantee myself a triumph and get +1 to wound, or a guaranteed reroll charge? And those +1 to wounds go a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. And not having that against you. That's huge too, is not giving, a Killian King or something like that +1 to wound against you in a game where you're all about survival more than killing. Not giving someone else +1 to wound, or we now have this terror. You can just auto pass a bravery check without popping Inspiring Presence, so you're shutting that off. You're shutting off a reroll charge. So somebody botches a charge, there's an entire turn you're just avoiding combat. You're sitting at 35 wounds, happy, healthy, 20 models on a point, and they failed that charge, and they're not getting it for free. So shutting off other armies' triumph when you are protecting your very few models and your footprint on the field, huge.
And there's a lot of armies right now who are playing around with Rally and Inspiring Presence and shutting them off, right? So we talked a bit about Archaon coming out soon. Nighthaunt's been doing it. Daughters of Cain with one of their command traits or artifacts can do it. There's so many different armies that are now playing with Inspiring Presence that one way that I was looking at in some of my armies was going for the Triumph to just auto pass Battle Shock. It's not Inspiring Presence. It's something completely different. So I think it's a good call. It's a really good call to shut off from your opponent.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, really great.
Anything you'd call out with the War Stomper? The War Stomper didn't have too big of a change. The War Stomper is the War Stomper. It still benefits the most in a Horde meta. Its hurled body changed slightly, but it's mostly is what it is.
Yeah, I think the highlight of the Stomper is that he didn't change. Where everybody else lost attacks and stuff, the War Stomper stayed the same. He wasn't really lifting in his weight class as much last time. Now, he without changing because everybody else changed, I think he's very viable. We already said Stomper Tribe is really one to watch out for. And so I think we'll start seeing more of this guy showing up on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and for the price point, his price went down a little bit. It's becoming now, do I take a mob versus do I take a War Stomper? So it's now a very viable question. The last of the megas is your Gatebreaker. So the Gatebreaker did lose some attacks, like a couple of things did drop a little.
Mm-hmm. Went up in damage, went down in number of attacks. The loss of Louder Than Words was rough, because you now go down to 6 attacks and you can't boost that on your general. So that does hurt this guy a bit, especially with a 4-up to hit. The best you can do with Idiots with Flags or any other buffing resource that you have is a 3-up. So that taking that down to 6, it's painful. It's more swingy. It's more likely to whiff. The 4 damage is great. And I will truly miss that command trait to take that up another 2 just to make more of a sure thing of him killing a unit. But some of the things that are cool here, his pulverizing strike did change, or we've now got this thing where you roll into Archaon and Archaon's buffed up like a 2-up save, ignoring all of your Rend for days. Like, okay, on a 4-up, I do mortal wounds to you. It gives you an out. You go into Night Haunt and they don't care about your Rend. It's like, okay, I'm not even going to bother. On a 4-up, you take mortals. So it gives you an out. It's kind of fun. It's kind of goofy, but it has play. It has something to use. It has situations, going into a Kragnos, going into whatever is on their finest hour with a Mystic Shield, with I ignore all your Rend, like whatever. We've all had those moments in games where you're like, I can't get anything through on this thing. Well, now you can. Now you can just on a 4-up, hoping for some Vegas dice, get some mortals in there. So really cool.
It's an interesting ability of it certainly has value, but when do you use the ability? And I think the 2 trigger moments for me would be, one, when I'm on 23 to 29 plus wounds suffered. So when my flail attacks have degraded to 4 or even 3, and I'm like, I'm not very confident that I'm going to get through attacks through, I might trade that off. I might go, yep, I'm just going to go for a 4-up and do 46. So 46 turns into 14 mortal wounds statistically, right? Obviously, you can spike up and down. The other part as well is, as you mentioned, someone who's been safe stacked to the 9, all Mystic Shield, finest hour, all that defense. You got to pull down this big bad, and it's a synergy piece or it's your grand strategy. And like, you know what, I'm gonna go for it.
Yeah.
If you're not confident that your rend and your damage and your dice are going to help you, then that's another way. But it probably when I'm unwounded, I'm probably not going to use it, not for a while.
Yeah, and then the other thing too, Smashdown. This is interesting. This has brought up some chatter as well. And again, this goes back to, this is like a one FAQ explaining what they mean by carry out is going to really help with a couple things in this book. So if you carry out Smash to Rubble, and there's debate on, does carry out mean success or just I spend my monstrous rampage to do this thing. Anything within 3 inches, 3 inches of the terrain feature on a 2-up takes D3 mortals. So that's new. That's new, cool, and something to add a little extra damage. Like I said, there's a lot of cool things in this book where you can just like Oprah Winfrey over here. You take damage and you take damage, and now you get a bravery check. So just another thing to start adding up, like, okay, here's a little extra damage, that's all just synergizing and coming in to force those bravery checks.
Great for things like Seraphon or Sylvaneth, who are using faction terrain and garrisoning or being within the terrain cover. It's quite a popular piece. So yeah, it's good abilities. And then the Man Crusher is probably, again, a lot of commonality with the old Man Crusher, but some of the things that I want to call out is the mob. The mob never used to have a unit champion, which meant that it needed to be babysat the whole time. Now it has a unit champion, a bull stomper, which is going to be great. So it's going to be a little bit more independent than it used to be. It has a boost in the monstrous rampage. So when you use the stomp monstrous rampage, you're going to do some extra mortal wounds as well. And that's under me heals now. Otherwise, they're relatively the same. It hasn't really changed a lot. Probably the only thing I would have loved to have seen is like 2-inch or 3-inch coherency. But otherwise, it's relatively consistent. I was like, please give me 2-inch coherency.
Yeah, it's
moving these stupid things that are like really long stretched. They're just so annoying.
Yeah, once this was released to the public, I didn't even think of that. It was kind of just a brain dump assumption that they would have like some unique coherency. I didn't even look at it. And then once this released to the public, there was a bunch of us chatting it up, and we're like, hey, what's the coherency on babies? And we're looking at it, like, oh, it's normal. That's silly. But this also removes their liability. Like you were saying, you had to babysit them. Like, how devastating if you fail a battle shock at a 12 wound, 170 point in the old points guy, he's throwing up deuces. He's out. He's like, all right, I'm done. You guys can fight this on your own.
Well, not even that, like having to re-roll a charge, all out attack, all out defense. It was all babysitting, right? By the way, the other cool change that's happened that I love, because I used to do this all the time, is keep up, where you can run and charge if you're within 15 inches of a mega. So if you combine that with some of them that do the 3d6 charge, and you can re-roll the charge, like you love it. So you can run and charge, sorry, you're absolutely loving it.
Yeah, and then there's a couple things. So let me make sure I get it right. So the stomping charge still works. Then there was a stomp as well, right? When you carry out,
ooze under me heals now. So when the bull stomper does the monstrous rampage of stomp on a 2, on a 2+, you're going to do extra mortal wounds. So if you've still got your unit of 3 man crusher mob, you'll be doing D3 plus 2 mortal wounds,
which is great because the unique monstrous rampages for the book are for megas. So now you just shrug off stomps your man crusher mob thing. So they take care of the stomp and they get extra damage for it. So cool, they can't do the unique things, but they've got a boosted stomp.
So given that we've talked a lot about the boosts on the man crusher mob, do you think that there's still value in looking at those solo man crushers, that they do need babying? They're 150 points per model. Thoughts on the crushers?
I love single ones. I love having them because I don't want to waste 450 points minimum on a war stomper or a mob to just babysit. Whatever it is. I'm playing the Nexus path or Nidus path. Sorry, not Nexus. Nidus path. And I need somebody just to babysit that objective and the Nidus. I don't want 450 points sitting back there. I want 150 points sitting back there. So and when I'm making lists and I'm thinking in a world without Crutch Spine, how many babies do I want? Well, I kind of want one mob and I want singles. I want this guy that can go and just dip his toe in the objective and make you come push him off without wasting 450 points. I want threats that aren't expensive. And so there's an absolutely a place for singles.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. Singles are great to be on the flank to kind of get objectives or to stay back and hold objectives. You talked earlier about the grand strategy. That one guy could literally just be running back and forth, just scoring your grand strat throughout the game.
Bump. Yeah,
it could be unleash hell, or just to charge into something before your other people go in, or tie someone up, or there's so much utility on those solos, and you don't have to worry. Like, if they die, there's no battle shock to deal with. They just go in and they're just like a little missile.
Yeah, just make somebody go around them. A 90-inch base, you put 3 inches on either side of that. That's something that's not flying, has to go out and around him or charge him and kill him. You're wasting an entire charge and combat phase just killing my 150 points. Who cares?
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of good value. And I know, like, one of the things that I've been having in my Discord is, we've been talking a lot about just like what's changed, how much damage has actually changed in the army. And I thought I'd do a bit of a comparison, and you can see on the charts here, what does the old War Scroll look like versus the new War Scroll? And in most instances, I've also gone, well, what does it look like with something like All Out Attack? And you can start to see that, the damage is comparable. In most cases, the old War Scroll was slightly better, but you're not seeing a huge, big difference in the drop in damage profile. Obviously, in the first one, the Man Crusher mob, I didn't compare All Out Attack on old versus new, but it's a minor reduction. But when I look at this, I don't freak out and go, oh my gosh, I've lost so much power. I think about the utility I've also gained. The bull stomp we talked about, the monstrous rampages we gained, the terror that we've gained. There's a whole bunch of extra things that we've gained, which means that we've dropped a little bit less in power, but we've gained a whole bunch more in utility. So what you're looking on screen here is a comparison on the damage output based on the armor saves on the full profile, excluding things like charges and some of the special abilities. This is just War Scroll attack and hit wound stuff. The War Stomper, the Gatebreaker, and then for anyone who's curious about the expected damage output, I've done something with the Gatebreaker versus the Beast Smasher to see who is expected to do more damage depending on what you're after. And you can see the Gatebreaker just on profile without ability will consistently do more damage across all the armor saves. Now, against a monster, that changes. Loadouts and pluses to hit and triumphs will change the numbers, but this should give you at least a starting point. Is there anything you want to add to that, Bear?
No, I think it's laid out perfectly, and it kind of shows you what you can expect. And we've been just almost beating a dead horse on. Sure, you lost a little bit of that like solo smashing, but you have gained so much play and synergy and unique things to use, and go have fun.
Yeah. So that's just to kind of give you, especially like if you're starting this army for the first time, it can be quite expensive. So where do you load out and what you want to load out? This will give you a good idea. But I think for me, like when I look at the Man Crusher mob, it certainly has surprised me. Like if I look at some of the damage that it can do, with some of the damage reductions in the Gatebreaker, the mob and the price point at the mob starts to become a little bit more attractive. But it doesn't have terror, so yeah. You do what you want to do with these numbers. We could do a whole show purely on numbers. Yep. So let's do some quick discussions on lists, because we'll be here forever if we talk about all the detail in the list. So you and I both wrote a couple of lists. You took 2, I took 2 tribes. You started off with the Taker tribe. So this is an example of one of the lists that you would run. Or what's your thinking here with how your Taker tribe comes to play?
Yeah, this one was just get as much like artifacts out there, ways to get a little extra buff, little nudge. And this is kind of in a world where Kronspine can eat a baby and level up. Do I want 4 megas? And I started with the Taker tribe. Like I said, I like Taker. I'm not feeling Smash right now in the current meta, but I still like all the tribes. And this was just, this very acquisitive gets me the extra callous feet, so I'm getting some extra chaff and infantry and stuff away from my feet, and the Wallop and Tentacle is allowing me to get in there and pick out and isolate heroes so that I can make them strike last. Broad's buffing them and he's got the heals, got the prayers, got all that stuff going out. The Shield of Protection is giving me, we're getting rid of that Rend and the Hammerbone Totem, so I at least have one guy that's kind of up on his toes, running all across the field. Anytime I need to shift from one side of the field to the other, I've got one guy that can run those errands for me. So
yeah, it's cool. And, if somebody was like, I want to reduce my drops and they don't care too much about the artifacts, you could always do Boss of the Stomp Unified, and this would be a 2-drop list. So there's a lot of flexibility. And look, we're not here to say this is the list to run. So don't, this is just an example. You could always swap out your War Stomper to babies. A mob is worth 450 as well. So you could easily interchange that if you need more bodies or if you don't own War Stompers.
You can one a lot of wounds too.
No, you can't.
Why wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, of course. Boss of the Stomp. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, King Broad counts. And what we didn't say either. Look at the end of the book. King Broad is battle line, which is great.
The reason I said it is because I'm so used to Boss of the Stomp being 2 megas. I
Yeah.
forgot you could do. I
Yeah.
forgot you could do 4. It's just like it's automatic. It's just double
Yeah.
Boss of the Stomp because the extra artifact. But yes, you could absolutely go 1 drop. Yes, I just completely forgot about. I've never seen anyone go. Just getting extra
Full 1 drop.
artifacts, especially 2 extra artifacts, is so good.
Yeah.
It's so good on your megas. You need something, whether it is Arcane Tome, whether it is something from the sub faction.
Yeah. Mana Core
You know,
Poison. Yeah, pick your choice. There's so many good options, and I tossed 2 that caught my attention, and we've touched on. There's a lot that we really like. So pick your flavor and toss them in here.
hell, you could drop one of the War Stompers and add Crutch Spine. You could
Good.
you got enough
Yeah.
you got enough points there, and you guarantee yourself a triumph as well. So, next up, was this yours or was this mine? Beast the Smasher Tribe. I think this is yours.
This might be mine. Yeah, so I went with this one. So Beast Smasher, Monstrally Tough, and Mantle of Tusks and Horns, giving that extra bravery. This might be a combo of ours. This is like a combo of stuff that we both said we like. Because I also like this one without the mantle, but instead with the Club of the First Oak, making. Oh, this is the Beast Smasher. Never mind. Yeah. So Monstrally Tough, getting a little extra on him. Scavenger Wake on the Gatebreaker. Gatebreaker is your damage dealer, and so this is, like I said, just another way to clear things that are trying to lock you in combat. You get that one time, like if a 20 pack of zombies or something comes up on you, you get to be able just to clear it away from your feet, get back out of combat, and get into something that you actually care about taking off the board. And then we've got a Man Crusher Mob. This is the way to pair up with the Beast Smasher. So you've got 3 dudes, 3 attacks going in for 46 damage each if you're going up against a monster, which can be really devastating taking out somebody's monster like that, especially if they got like a high point one, your babies are coming in and taking it out. And then I like to break it down into 3 Man Crushers solo. This way, same thing, like paying that tax. They're your errand boys. They're capping objectives. They're stealing objectives. They're babysitting things. They're screening, they're speed bumping, they're absorbing Unleash Hell. I don't want to waste 450 points on an Unleash Hell or as a screen, whatever. These things are your sacrifice, your errand boys, whatever have you.
And you could wrap those 3 Man Crushers into the Footslogger Battalion to reduce those drops down to 3, or get yourself a free Forward to Victory.
Sure.
So that's obviously the option. Or if you want to reduce your drops even more, obviously you could make this into another mob and before. So again, just sharing a couple of ideas on how people can build their lists. Next up is one that I made, and we've kind of talked a lot about the Breaker Tribe. I'm a big fan of the Breaker Tribe, as is most people. It is with flags, probably the one that you'll get most utility out of. Most units have a command model. Very few units actually don't have a command model, so you'll always be getting your +1 to hit. You're monstrously tough, getting the extra 5 wounds to make that Gatebreaker. 40 wounds is going to be invaluable. And the Great Wrecker doing more damage on the flail attack. I love the threat, and nothing is scarier to your opponent by hearing a Gargant can run and charge. So getting a second Gatebreaker who could be the first wave to actually crush an opponent, and if you get the choice of who's going first, you could hit your opponent in turn 1 before they got their buffs up, and really pin them in their backfield, do some serious damage. And swing the momentum very early. So that's definitely an option. King Broad, I think the utility value, you've got your first wave of your Gatebreakers going up, and maybe even a wave 2 if you want to just throw them up as you go. And King Broad and the 2 Man Crushers can kind of be sitting in the mid to the backfield, either getting involved where they need to, using some of the prayers, the Man Crushers challenging objectives, and obviously making life hard. But
it's funny. This list is actually the first one that I practiced with and tried when I was trying out the new book, because my last list was 3 Gatebreakers, 2 babies, and an endless spell. So I tried this out, except I added Jaws to it, taking up another 60 points, and really great, really fun list. Having those babies has kind of invaluable to do the baby thing. and then broad buffing the gate breakers was a whole lot of fun. Really recommend this list.
Jonathan mentioning in the chat, and look, it might have been a system limitation. I was trying to do the list last night. It's saying that the Man Crusher mobs can go into Foot Slogger because of the keyword of the battalion. I'd have to relook at the wording and the language. I know when I was trying to build my list, it wasn't letting me go in. So it might just be a system limitation as opposed to a battalion limitation. So
yeah, you can swap that too and just put them in bounty hunters.
Yeah, that's another thing as well. Yeah. Depends on what you want them to kind of go into, but yeah, bounty hunters, whew, that would hurt. And then finally, the other list I'd made was the Stomper Tribe, which was very interesting because I don't really traditionally like Stomper Tribe, yet here I am very excited to run 2 War Stompers, a bunch of mob, and a solo. Now, again, you could run, you could break this up into having lots of small babies as opposed to the mobs. But really what I'm trying to do is have an offensive power, which is that War Stomper with the Arcane Tome flaming weapon, being able to cast Mystic Shield and things like that. But also having the Mantle of the Destroyer, giving those Man Crushers a bravery of 10 while they're within 12 inches. So really reducing the threat of like Inspiring Presence and shutting off idiots running and stuff like that. Being able to heal up the other War Stomper pretty easily with bravery of 10. But also really maximizing the command ability. So being Stomper Tribe, I can issue the command multiple times with only spending 1 CP. And I can really maximize that value through the Man Crushers because I'm getting 3 models as opposed to 1. So, and plus obviously things like the Stomp and that.
Yeah, mathematically, this works out so well because you get that 1 single baby to pay your tax. And then now you've got the mobs that we're showing are really good damage dealers. You've got your general that we talked earlier, either toss out the 10 bravery or go for the Club of the First Oak. So make him even beefier, harder to take down as he's buffing all those Man Crushers because he's key too to where he can toss out an all-out attack, all defense, whatever you want to 7 models in this list. So keeping him nice and beefy and alive is just really great. So yeah, this is another just really, really great list that I think we'll see here soon.
Yeah, and the War Stomper with the Arcane Tome flaming weapon is you'll notice that the damage of a War Stomper is not close to the Gatebreaker. But the problem with the Gatebreaker is the Gatebreaker gets no synergies in the Stomper Tribe. So giving it flaming weapon does bridge the gap between the damage output and yeah, like you'll find value in the War Stomper with that flaming weapon. And if we ever go into a horde meta or we go with like multiple like GVs, he just does so much more damage.
And that War Stomper too, think about a 3-pack mob with a Mystic Shield and then all a defense. So now a 4-up with 12 wounds per guy. So you got 36 wounds. They're 30 models on an objective. They don't bracket. On a 4-up, all a defense them, ignoring 1 rend. That's hard to move. That's really hard to move. And then, you've got, they're put them at a bravery 10 and everything else. Like really hard to get them off a point.
Yeah, I love having Arcane Tome. I know it's a universal. It's not as sexy as the battle, like the book artifacts, but having that +1 save outside of like Finest Hour and all out defense, because I usually want to burn all out attack first, or if I'm roared at, I can't obviously do that. It's just another piece of utility that I want in my list. So, yeah. If they don't need babysitting anymore, does that mean they're the teenagers? No, teenagers need to be real. Yeah, they need to be babysat even more. So that's just a couple of ideas that we've kind of come up with, but by no means is it the only way of running Sons. I think you do you if you want to run whatever you want to run. I think there's a lot of versatility and excitement within the book. I'm genuinely excited from a list building point of view. In the past, I kind of was tunnel vision. I'm like, these are the models I want to run, the end. Now there's so much opportunity. And to kind of close things off, and I shared at the top of the show that I have something that I'm going to start doing, and feel free to join me if you want to join me. And that is the Sons of Behemat WrestleMania bingo card, where I want to start colossal slamming some of the biggest points value and the biggest damage monsters out there in the mortal realms. So this is my bingo card. I'm going to start, if we play and you have one of these models, I am going to colossal slam you and take you to Suplex City. There was a couple of I had to miss, but like obviously the box can only be so big. But if I can start Be'lakor and like Morathi and Be'lakor and Vermin Lord and Kragnos and like that's just
yeah. I kind of want to go for a diagonal like Teclis, Glotkin, Alariel, right? Those three right there. Oh yeah, perfect. Like there's no better way to make people angry than just a suplex Alariel.
I want to suplex Scarbrand. I want to suplex. Yeah. I think my holy grail would be suplex Teclis. If I can suplex Teclis, that's just like cream.
I think so. Jack and I were talking about this too, where we want to see it where like you suplex a Gargant and then that Gargant suplexes the other one, and we're just like going all the way across the table, suplexing each other. You know, now we're not even on the objective. We're just sitting on like the board edge like idiots, but
this is like some carnies.
This is great too, because this is like the Purple Sun, or for me, the Wargog. I took a Bone Splitters list to a GT, and I was just keeping track of everything the Wargogged. You know, it is laser beamed him. So this is one too, is like now I've got it like a, you know, just start tacking off like what models out there in the world that I've suplexed. I just keep track. Like, oh, I need to play you because I haven't suplexed a Keeper of Secrets yet. So we got a grudge match, you know?
I'll post this in Discord, so if people want to actually print this out or whatever, feel free. I'll post it on Discord. Couple of quick questions finally. Triple Herbals asking, should be Triple H, by the way, wrestling. Does this affect non-Gargant SOB lists? So no. In fact, the Beast Smasher, you've gained a new Mega Gargant, so there are mercenary versions if you want to bring them in. No real change. Yes, there were some War Scroll changes, but the way you do it all is the same.
Yeah. Same thing. You just can't take Broad. Broad is a War Master for Gargants only. Everybody else, you know, you can still do their thing, be mercenaries.
I love it. Bushy Baby's already said he's suplexed Kronspine and Morathi already. So I want to see who suplexes what, and I want to see photos of suplexes. Any final closing comments that you'd make about this book? Again, like there are some things we've lost. I get it. But I'm genuinely excited about the book. Do I think they're going to be overpowered and oppressive and going 5-0 and, you know, you shut off your opponent? No, it's going to take you some time to play around with it. It's going to take some practice. There are some good things in here. You've lost some things. So I would say to people, take a fresh look at the book. Don't grab your old list and try to put it into the new book. Look at it with fresh eyes and try to look at the best combinations for you.
Yeah, I think we've said it a few times. Enjoy the synergy, enjoy the fun, enjoy all of the new artifacts and monstrous rampages and battle tactics. It's fun. It's unique. I think it's still got great power to it. It's different. You know, I'm not going to go erase a unit with one Gatebreaker, but maybe two. And so it's changing your play style a little bit, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And those guys up there, you know, guys like, you know, Timber down in SoCal and other Gargant players that are just having a blast playing these things. I think it's going to be even more fun, more excitement, more goofiness, and it's just going to be so great when a Gatebreaker rolls in and does 46 mortals, or that one guy that brought a Beast Smasher to a GT who turns and him and his babies take down an Archeon with their Beast Smashing clubs. And it's going to be a lot of fun and still competitive. We've talked about a lot of ways you can keep competitive with this, a lot of different builds, a lot of different things we want to try, we want to experiment. And they're all viable, they're all fun, and it's going to do really well, I think.
Yeah, while we've highlighted a lot of the fun, I also need to highlight they are competitive. Yes. They're not going to be at the bottom with Cruel Boys and Gits. They are going to be your average 3-2 army, and a good player who practices, who reads the mission well, who understands their opponent is going to be able to go 4-1 and 5-0. I have no doubt in my mind that 5-0s can happen with this book. It's just that the average person picking it up is not going to burr themselves up the table and go 5-0. It's going to take practice, and that's where we want battle tomes to be. Everyone.
Yeah, it's crazy to say it out loud, but you're going to need to practice with this book. You're going to need to work on your resource management and your actual movement and placement and everything else. And foresight is going to be key. There's going to be a lot of, actual tactical, futuristic thinking in the way you play and lining yourself up for the next turn and not sticking your neck out there. That's going to exist. You can't just run and smash. You can't just stand and hold. You're going to have to start combining a lot of these different things. And even the people that have been out there creating lists with 5 megas that are all so mathematically different in their points and their actual damage value and how they synergize in and out of a tribe and the babies and singles and bombs and all this stuff. There's enough stuff in such a small book that mathematically it's going to be it's going to take some trial and error. But they are competitive. They're definitely got a play for 4-1, and they've got a place to swing for 5-0. But you're not going to 3D print 4 models, show up, and go 5-0. And there's Jeremy Hawk. He's right on my toes right now, going for top Gargant, and I look forward to seeing what him and Chris Schelling and some of these other guys are going to do with this book. And I've heard a lot of them talking, and I think it's going to be really cool.
Yeah, I've been talking to Jeremy a lot on Discord, and I think one of the things that I've been trying to say to people who are working through this book is stop fixating on the damage that you lost. Yes, the Death Grip is no longer Ren 3. Yes, you've lost some flail attacks and some different club attacks. There's some damage that has been reduced. We get it, but there is so much utility, and if you want to be the damage dealer that just runs forward and just swings, then maybe it's time to pick up Iron Jaws. I'm not trying to stop you from playing this game, but the army's changed a little bit, and there's some abilities that you need to start working out, and you will see overall you'll probably do a lot more damage through things like the terror and some of the other the artifacts we've talked about. That on paper, we're not Iron Jaws, we're not ogres, we're our own new army.
Yeah, you might have to think more in terms of profiling a hero or a monster instead of just erasing him. It's different.
Yeah, it sounds like there was a Colossal Slam that just happened in the back. So I'm going to let you go. I think it's dinner time. Bear, I think it's dinner time for you. And I think it sounds like the beasts of the mortal realms are grumbling, and the great Moor is asking for sacrifice. But if people want to see more of you, Bear, you are one of the members of Rerolling Ones.
Yep.
So go check out Rerolling Ones. Go see how Bear plays his list and start stomping around and start asking for him to suplex. If you don't see suplexes and he runs Gargants, then you need to keep on his ass. But is there anything you want to say? Any shout outs?
Yeah, we've got Gargants coming up here soon. I owe the amazing Jack Ballard a game with my Gargants. It's coming up here soon. You should see it on our channel. Please, it's so cliche. Same thing here with Coach. Like, subscribe, give comments, give shouts. It helps us so much. Coach's channel, because he's amazing, and we all love and respect what he does for this community. Come over, visit us. Love to see you guys. Love to see you guys out at tournaments. Coach and I are both going to be chilling it, throwing back some beers at LVO this year. So really can't wait to see you guys out there.
I will close on this closing comment is, Triple Herbs asking or saying, if you're all pleased with this book, I feel a bit better about the Ogre book. Now, we've said we've lost a few things. And I think the way I've tried to look at this is the way I try to look at every book. The book is the book. Regardless of what you lost and what you've gained, it is what it is. You either on the bus and we're going to work out a way to make the most of the book, or you're off the bus and you go find something else because you're unhappy of a playstyle change. So if you like Nurgle and you love the fast Nurgle, well, Nurgle's not fast anymore. So you're either on the bus and you work a way of building new lists, or you're off the bus and you go play Slaanesh. That's how I look at this. That's how I look at this book. It's like things have changed. You're either going to play Sons, you're going to have an absolute ball, or it's not for you anymore. Put them on the shelf for a little bit and wait for an update on a battletome or a white dwarf or something that's maybe more to your style.
Yeah, absolutely. But go have fun.
There's so much fun. There's so much fun. I can't wait to play King Brod. I mean, he's almost done. I'm going to start playing with him soon.
Mine's all painted. Finish up my Beast Smasher, and we're gonna go have a great time with him. So.
All right. Well, let's go have a great time with our families. Thank you, everyone who joined the live stream. Thank you for everyone who watched it on the replay. Let me know in the comment section, genuinely, what you're thinking. Is there some synergies that we didn't really talk about a lot, or are there ways that you're thinking about building your list? We're all learning together. Please let me know in the comment section and continue the conversation in Discord. The link is below. Again, we have a whole list tech conversation purely for Sons. So if you want to talk about Sons, or if you don't know where to start, or if you're trying to look at what combinations might work best, come talk, because we all kind of, what's the saying? High tide lifts all boats, and we as Sons can go out and smash the mortal realms. Bear, thank you. Everyone who joined, thank you. It's time to, I don't know, go stomp. Go Colossal Slam.
Thank you, brother. Take care, y'all.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging around until the end. I hope you enjoyed that video and you walked away with a few new ideas. If you did, I would love it if you press like on the video, as well as left me a comment to let me know what your thoughts are. The conversation will continue over on Discord, and the link is down below in the video description. I want to give a massive shout out as well to the AOS Coast Patreons and YouTube members who are going in, and the funds of supporting the channel and the growth that you're seeing here. So cheers, you're all bloody legends. And until next time, don't roll a 1 on a redeploy.